Not sure if you should use ClickUp or Notion for your specific needs? In this video, we're diving into something really exciting, a detailed comparison between Notion and ClickUp, which are some of the most popular project management and productivity tools out there. If you're trying to decide between these tools or just curious about what makes each one unique, you're in the right place. I'll be breaking down everything from basic structure to advanced features, helping you figure out which tool might work better for you. Before we jump in, if you find this video useful, be sure to like, subscribe, and turn on the notification bell. Let's first talk about the differences with setup between Notion and ClickUp. For beginner users of Notion, you'll be guided to this page called Getting Started that Notion has created, where you can go over this checklist so you can invite your teammates to come work with you. You can add more team spaces to give each department their own dedicated area, which you can see here. These are team spaces. You can click the plus sign in the sidebar to add pages, for example, like creating new page. And you can click the calendar to see your schedule and so on. So there's this very basic guide, but ultimately what you'll want to do is probably go to the templates area here to look for some templates that you might want to get started with, or build a new system completely from scratch by typing /commands and looking through what you can add to each page. In general, there's no predetermined structure that Notion wants you to use in terms of the setup. So you can create anything from habit trackers to project and task managers and so on, and manage your business or your life in Notion. But it does give you a lot of choices on what kind of direction you can take it. So here there's a sample workspace where you can see that you can structure your company pages, your tasks like this, projects like this. But the essence is that you can also just start completely from scratch with an empty page. Next, let's talk about ClickUp. When you first start using ClickUp, you're likely going to create a new workspace. And when you create a new workspace, it's going to guide you through this. This is kind of similar to the way that Notion setup works as well. So this is an example of a clean workspace from the very beginning, and as you can see, everything is laid out very neatly, so you can see your inbox of tasks, your docs, dashboards, and all of these things that are very easy to navigate and see exactly what kind of categories these belong to. As well as if you're in here, you'll notice that there's a task list here, so you can immediately start adding new tasks. Starting point is just really easy with ClickUp. It's so easy to see that you need to assign someone here, due dates, priority, and so on. It's all pre-made for you, which makes ClickUp a really good starting solution if you want something set up really quickly. Next, let's examine the differences in structure between these two tools. So with Notion, you can see from the sidebar that everything is organized by page. So we have a new page here. If I want to add another page inside, I can do page here and keep nesting pages. So here I can add another page. And if I go here, you can see that we have a new page and a new page and a new page. Inside each page, there are blocks that you can move around. So for example, I can add /commands and I can add a bulleted list. So I need to remember to buy groceries, and then I can move this around. I can add columns here. So then I could move this to the other side, for example, and so on. One structural thing with Notion is that it relies a lot on databases. So a database is another kind of page. So I'm going to create a page, and this time I'm going to use, for example, a board view. So immediately I have a board view database. On the sidebar, it's going to look like this. It's a new page here. And inside of these, I can add different pages, but each page has a unique set of properties that I can add. So in this way, you can think of Notion as a collection of pages that also has the option to have databases, which are collections of pages with certain properties inside. And you can even reference these databases with linked views, so you can see your databases visually on any page that you want to create dashboards. With ClickUp, things are structured differently, and the difference lies in the way that everything is based off of lists in ClickUp, which with Notion, you might think of it as a database, except that the lists in ClickUp have predetermined properties here that I can't really click and hide necessarily unless I click like this, but I can't really easily delete these. So there is more of a structure to the task list compared to Notion. And each list of tasks can be shown in different views. So you can see it in board view, you can see it as a calendar, and so on. On the bigger hierarchy, there are spaces. So you can see a full list of all the lists inside of your space, as well as all the documents inside of your space when you create new spaces. So I can create, for example, marketing space and so on. This is similar to team spaces in Notion. And you can also add folders. So inside of the space, you can add something called folders. So for example, project 1, create. And this folder also comes with a predetermined list of views that you need to have, as well as a list inside like this. So in general, you can think of it as a list on the bottom level. You can also add docs to this. Then there's folders, and then there's spaces. And then you can also add new workspaces as another layer at the very top. So those are the main hierarchy when it comes to ClickUp. Next, let's talk about the project management capabilities of both ClickUp and Notion. So in Notion, you can download specific templates for project management. So here you can see Notion's own template for managing projects, as well as having a sprint board if you want to use sprint features, and a task list like this. So in that sense, Notion also works great as a project management tool, but you might need to do some configuration with it. So if you didn't start with this template, you would be starting with a completely new page where you might want to create a new database of a table with tasks and add, for example, assignees and all of these additional properties that you will have to build from the beginning. But that also means that you'll have the opportunity to actually set up the correct system that works for your specific business, projects, and so on. So that's the strength of Notion, is that it can really be crafted to fit your specific structure and way of working that you prefer. But it might be complicated in the sense that you might have to do some building from scratch or connecting it to make it really work. So with ClickUp, it's really easy to get started, especially for project management, because you can just simply rename these spaces. And for example, you could call this one marketing, and you can choose your default views, but this one is always required, which is the list. As I mentioned before, that it is the foundation of ClickUp. So you cannot just have a completely empty page. So then you can also set task statuses. And again, you can't just delete statuses that you could actually do in Notion. You can also add click apps. So you can turn on sprints. You can turn on all of these in the beginning and then done, save changes. And you basically have a starting point for your project management. And then you could have a list for project 1 or project 2. You can add docs inside of here, forms inside of here, and so on. So in that sense, you can see an overview of your whole marketing team through here immediately. So the ease of setup is definitely a huge bonus for ClickUp, as well as if you do open this up, you can see that all of these are already here from the start. So you don't need to add a property for priorities, a property for due dates, if you were to start from scratch. The downside to this is that if I, for example, add a task here and I open this one up, I can't just click here and suddenly delete assignees. The tasks tend to come with these ID numbers, and all of these things are already here, so you can't really change the structure. There are some customizations that you can do, but it is designed to be a task and project based app. So it has these structures, which can be useful if you don't want to spend time thinking of the perfect system, but you just want to get started using it. Then ClickUp could be a good choice for that. Another really good feature with ClickUp is that subtasks are already included, and it's going to already show up that you have a subtask here, as well as the possibility for recurring tasks. So if I click here and I want to set up as recurring, it will do that for me forever, which is great because it shows up in the calendar. On the other hand, with Notion, it is a little bit limited in that it recurs database templates, but it doesn't really track whether or not it's complete. So you won't see that task until the day of that task due date. So these are pretty powerful features that are good for specifically project management and task management. Next, let's talk about note-taking and personal knowledge management with both of these tools. With Notion, I really like note-taking because it's really easy and customizable to set up. So for example, here I have a notes table view database. And if I click here and I open it up, I can immediately start writing inside of here my notes. And I can also add unique properties. So you can start with 0 properties and then, for example, add the created date. I could add tags here, and I can do all of these things for my new note, as well as add specific templates for it here. So if I had a meeting note that I want to be able to use a template for, I would have, for example, summary of the meeting. And then I could always have this structure whenever I open it up and I want a meeting note, I would just click here, for example. In that sense, note-taking with Notion is really useful, and I like that I can put it into these databases, or you can also just take notes through your pages as well. So you can also create notes here and organize it in the sidebar. On the other hand, with ClickUp, note-taking has to be done through docs, or you can also write your notes inside of your tasks like this. So I could write my notes inside of here and use this sort of as a note system, but in the end it still comes with these statuses. So the best way to take notes inside of ClickUp would be to create docs. So if I click docs, it's actually going to look very similar to Notion. So I would have my new note here, and it's already going to give me my last updated time and so on. But the one thing that you can't really do is to kind of have them in this one database where you might be able to manipulate the tags and all of these things. So it's going to look like the page structure that you see in Notion on the sidebar instead of in a database. So if I had a notes here and I add another page, you can see that all of these are like this inside of this one sidebar. You can also nest pages inside as well. So here you can see that there is sub pages. So this is very similar to Notion, but it is a lot more structured than, let's say, Notion is, that you don't have the choices to add certain properties to this that you could with Notion. ClickUp also comes with slash commands, so it's really similar to Notion in that sense, and you can add also a linked view of your lists from outside, so that can be also really useful. Next, let's compare dashboards. With Notion, you do have to set up your own dashboard. So you can see here I have my personal home with different notes, tasks, databases, journals, and so on, and my daily schedule, personal calendar, and all of these things. It's highly customizable, but I do have to create it from scratch myself in order to have a good experience with what I want to showcase on my dashboard. You can also use something called Notion Home as a dashboard as well, where you could connect your Google Calendar to see things, as well as a overview of your tasks. And you can also pin specific databases that you want access to all the way here. Options are pretty limited. You can show and hide these widgets, so there's not that many options, and you don't really get any kind of statistical data unless you create those using charts yourself. So for example, if I'm in my task list here and I go to charts view, you can see these kinds of views here that you can create and edit the way that you'd like. So Notion does have these kinds of features where you could potentially display your charts. Next, if I go to ClickUp, you can see that dashboards are incorporated already on the sidebar here, and you can create dashboard directly from here. So you can create any kind of dashboard you want, from simple dashboards, reporting, time tracking, and all of these things so that you can see an overview of what you're working on and all of the things that you want to keep track of. So as you can see here, I can see my unassigned tasks, tasks in progress, tasks completed, and so on in this very nice overview so that I can see exactly what's going on in my team. This is especially useful for project management. I can add cards so you can see all of the options that I can add to my dashboard. And I really like this feature of ClickUp that you can even do this to have this kind of main thing to keep track of. If I'm in my space here for the organized notebook, for example, I can also click plus view here and add a dashboard inside of here as well, unique to this area. So you can see 6 unassigned, 1 in progress, and so on, and open tasks and all of these things. And I really like this feature. On the other hand, compared to Notion, as you can see, it is more pre-built in the sense that I can't just start typing here or adding images here. I can move around the blocks like this, but there is a bit less customization in the sense that in Notion, you're pretty much building out this entire view that you have here, as opposed to working inside of this dashboard view like this. But for usability, I think that it is nice that it's already pre-made so that you don't have to spend time thinking about what should go where or the options that you have. So there's kind of both pros and cons to this in the sense that you cannot do complete customization of what goes in each section. Next, let's talk about the unique features only available on ClickUp. So some of these features are only for people who are on paid plans, but in general, I think you will be saving quite a lot from being able to use these features that you don't need to pay for other apps. So with ClickUp, if I go here and click plus view, you can see that I can actually add a whiteboard. So this whiteboard reminds me a lot of Miro. So if you're paying for a Miro subscription, you might be able to end up using this whiteboard directly inside of ClickUp, which could save you some money in terms of apps. Another feature of ClickUp is that you can add chats. So if I go to my chats here, you can see like this. I can see chats in the organized notebook space as well. So this almost looks a little bit even like Slack. So this is also really useful that you can use and chat with your teammates directly inside of ClickUp so you don't have to leave the app. So again, I think this is also really nice. A few other features that ClickUp has is time tracking. So if I am, for example, in my admin tasks list here, and I need to email potential client about discovery call, I can start tracking that time as well by clicking add time, and it's immediately tracking the time for me. This unfortunately is not a feature in Notion. You do have to build it up if you want to add start and end timers to your task database, for example. So this built-in feature is really nice that you can just click here and start time tracking like this and everything gets logged. So I do like that feature inside of ClickUp. Another cool thing in ClickUp is that I can also add a mind map, and this mind map can be a visual representation of existing folder list and task, or I could just have a blank task here. And then if I want, I can even start to create a task from my mind map. So this allows me to really think about the whole picture and then start creating tasks to go into the actual task list. So I think this is also a really cool feature that you can create tasks from your mind maps. Next, let's talk about the unique features of Notion. So as you've probably noticed already, one of the most unique features of Notion is simply its versatility. So if you see here, I can have everything from my notes, tasks, journal, shopping list, personal calendar projects. I can add a habit tracker if I want. I can look through templates for all kinds of things and very creative templates as well. For example, you can see here there's a pet hub, there's a auto collection, video game tracker. All of these things are possible inside of Notion, and you can combine it into your personal home. And you can also use Notion to create systems for your business and work life as well. So I think the versatility is definitely one of the most unique features of Notion. The other more technical things that Notion can do that, for example, ClickUp doesn't really have support for is if I go to my journal here, you can see that this is in gallery view. In Notion, you can have these gallery view databases. So in ClickUp, everything is a list, specifically task lists. So it doesn't have quite the support for having things other than tasks inside of a list. So sometimes you might want your journals entries in an organized format like this that's in a database as opposed to just inside of sidebar pages. So that's something that I think that Notion has that ClickUp doesn't have. And the other thing is truly customizable properties. So if I go to my notes here, you can see that I've added so many properties like the tags, number of words, created time, attachment, quick summary, and these formulas as well. ClickUp also does allow you to have customized properties too, specific to that list, but it does feel a little bit more structured. You can't just delete all of your properties and only have the name. When you open it up, there's still going to be areas that's going to be empty if you don't use them. So I think that in that sense, Notion can be a cleaner layout if you only want to see the properties that you use. Next, let's talk about the pricing for both ClickUp and Notion. So with ClickUp, if you're just using it for personal use, personal task tracking and project managing, and even taking notes in there, the free plan probably will work for you. You basically have unlimited tasks, unlimited free plan members, and whiteboards even. So I think there's a lot you can do simply with the free plan. If you do upgrade, some things that you do get would be unlimited Gantt charts and custom fields, form view, as well as unlimited dashboards, integration, storage, and all of these things. So if you are using it for your business, then you might want to consider upgrading to be able to use more features like timesheets and these things. On the other hand, if we go to Notion's pricing plan, again, if you're just using it for personal use, the free plan already has unlimited blocks. So you're not going to be limited by what you can create inside of Notion, except for having access to charts. So you only get one chart per free plan, as well as the custom websites. So you have more possibilities of customizing and creating websites through Notion if you have the paid plan. So those are the main differences, as well as automations are only for paid plan members to be able to customize them. But I think both tools are quite reasonable in their pricing plan, as you can eliminate the need for other tools. Like for example, with Notion, having the paid plan could allow you to use it also as a web page. With ClickUp, having the paid plan could allow you to use time tracking capabilities really easily. So in that sense, I think you will still be able to sort of consolidate all the tools that you use, no matter which one you choose. My final thoughts after comparing ClickUp and Notion is that ClickUp can be more structured, and the way you should use it is laid out for you to a certain extent while having customization options. The fact that it has whiteboard features and time tracking, especially if you're on the paid plan, could be a game changer if you're managing projects as a team. On the other hand, Notion allows you to really start with a blank slate, and you can mold it to your own needs. Personally, I like the clean design of Notion, as I can simply delete properties that I don't need or use. But it does take some setup, and there is a learning curve for your team members as well. Let me know in the comments your own experiences with Notion or ClickUp. If you're new to these tools, the sign-up links are also in the description, and I highly encourage you to try them both to see which would work better for you. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope to see you all in the next video.